Coco Chanel is often remembered as a woman of elegance, simplicity, and taste. But that version is comfortable. The real story is sharper and far less romantic. Chanel did not rise because she was gifted. She rose because she understood something most people never do. Power is not given to the talented. It's taken by the observant. She began life at the very bottom. Gabrielle Chanel was abandoned by her father and sent to an orphanage after her mother died. There, she learned discipline, silence, and control. The convent taught her restraint, but also something more important: how to disappear when necessary, and how to watch. This mattered later, because Chanel's genius was not creativity, it was adaptation. She didn't dream of art. She studied people. When she entered Parisian society, she wasn't dazzled by wealth. She was curious about how it functioned, who had access, who was listened to, who decided what was acceptable. And she noticed something uncomfortable. Women were decorative. Men were powerful. But women influence men, quietly, indirectly, constantly. That observation became her leverage. Chanel did not reject male power. She aligned herself with it, strategically. Her relationships with wealthy men were not accidents, nor romances in the fairy tale sense. They were infrastructure. She learned how men with money thought, spoke, and moved. She absorbed their confidence, their entitlement, their sense of inevitability, and then she translated that energy into clothing. At the time, women were dressed to impress others, not to move freely. Corsets restricted breathing. Luxury was heavy, fragile, theatrical. Chanel understood something radical. Clothing was a behavioral cage. So she removed it. She dressed women the way powerful men dressed themselves. For movement, not display. Jersey fabric, straight lines, flat shoes, simple colors. This was not an aesthetic choice. It was a psychological one. She wasn't freeing women out of kindness. She was creating a new kind of consumer. Women who felt competent, independent, and modern. And those women were loyal. Chanel didn't sell dresses. She sold an identity. But power always demands a cost. Chanel was notoriously difficult, cold, and uncompromising. She demanded absolute control over her brand, her image, and her legacy. She did not tolerate rivals. She did not nurture protégés. She did not soften with age. Because she knew something else most people avoid admitting. Warmth makes you likable, but it rarely makes you untouchable. Her ambition was not to be admired. It was to be necessary. Even her contradictions were calculated. She preached independence, yet relied on men for capital. She rejected sentimentality, yet constructed a myth around herself. She simplified fashion, yet turned simplicity into an elite signal. This tension is what made her powerful. She existed between worlds, between masculine authority and feminine desire, between poverty and aristocracy, between invisibility and dominance. And she never fully belonged to any of them. That outsider position became her advantage. Because outsiders see systems clearly. Chanel returned to fashion after World War II, when most believed she was finished. She was older. Fashion had moved on. The world expected nostalgia. Instead, she reasserted relevance. Not by chasing trends, but by re-establishing authority. Her design said, "This is not fashion for youth. This is fashion for women who command rooms." And the market responded. By the end of her life, Chanel had done what few ever achieve. She turned her name into an institution. Her body aged. Her influence did not. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Coco Chanel was not kind. She was not generous. She was not politically innocent. She was ambitious, strategic, and often ruthless. And that is precisely why her legacy survived. History tends to soften women like Chanel, to make them palatable. But power is rarely polite. Chanel didn't win because she was talented. She won because she understood leverage, timing, and human weakness. She knew when to adapt, when to withdraw, when to dominate. She did not ask permission to exist in spaces that excluded her. She redesigned the spaces themselves. Coco Chanel didn't rise by breaking the rules. She rose by learning them better than anyone else, and then rewriting them in her favor. That is not fashion, that is power.